we just thought we'd pop on this morning and let you know we've just had the news that we are number 6 in the business charts, which we cannot believe. So please keep listening to the Coaching Crowd podcast, rating, reviewing, subscribing, telling your friends all about it.
We just want to get to number 1 now.
Yes, please. Just for our kids, how cool would we be as working mums then? But we also wanted to introduce you to Nicola Rowley, who's here with us. And Nicola is a PR expert and also is in a mastermind that we are in. So Nicola, tell all our audience about you.
Well, good morning. And first of all, huge congratulations, because they can't be underestimated how big that actually is. The fact that you're number 6 already and you've only just released your podcast, that's huge.
We actually can't believe it. Like, we're just amazed.
We've got an amazing audience.
Hugely grateful to everyone who's supporting us. We have a lot of support to be able to achieve this. And they're amazing. They've really come through for us today. So really, really grateful.
Yeah, but that's part of the thing though, right? When you're in business, you need to have people that who've got your backs, and also having a loyal audience, which is what it's all about. So for those of you that haven't met me before, my name is Nicola Rowley, and I specialize in helping female entrepreneurs and brands in the leisure and entertainment industry get visible through the power of PR storytelling. And it's very strategic in the way that I do it. It's not just a case of quick, go out there and tell your story. It's very much about thinking in terms of kind of how does SEO actually work for you? So search engine optimization, so that you can be found at the other end. So when people are actually looking for you, they find you more easily. But then also how storytelling actually breaks down is that it enables you to have a deeper emotional connection with potential clients. So they see your story, they see that you're an expert in your field. And if they've got an issue or a problem that they need solving, they're much more likely to come to you because you've shared more about yourself. So that's how it works. But from my point of view, it's all about, from a coach perspective and a PR practitioner, it's about the impact that we can have on other people's lives.
Yeah. And I think one of the reasons we've enjoyed the podcast so much, and why I think our audience are here to help, is we tell an awful lot of stories. We share our own, like we're quite open about kind of who we are, the journeys that we've had to get here, but we also share stories from just our experience, clients that we've been working with and things like that. It's easier to relate to something that somebody can see part of in themselves. So we're there with you on the storytelling front.
And I think also a lot of our audience are in corporate roles at the moment, are interested in coaching, wondering about whether coaching is a potential career path for them, or if they want to introduce it into their organizations. And we are living proof that you can do that and find real joy and fulfillment. And so for us today, we're normally helping and supporting others. So for us today to feel the support and the love from our audience, it's just like, it's a really mutual thing. And we are planting a tree for everybody that listens, rates and reviews our podcast as a little way.
Oh, that's so special that's the case. I love that. I absolutely love that.
We've been talking about different ways that we can give back, from a kind of environmental perspective for a while. And so we're looking forward to doing that. What about your story, Nicola? What's your story? How did you get into what you're doing?
So I actually trained as a journalist, and I was a journalist for 13 years, working nationally and internationally. And then I reached a point, I was working at the BBC, and I'd worked on everything from the BBC News channel, used to read the news on Radio 1. I'd done all these kind of things. I've worked on the 10 o'clock news, and the role that I was in before I left, I was the entertainment reporter for BBC Three, which I loved. And it sounds super glamorous, but in effect, these things always sound much more glamorous than they actually are. It was me and an editor sat in a windowless room from 10 till 6 most days. Occasionally I get to go out with a camera crew and we'd stand on a red carpet and interview celebrities and people like that. And that bit was really fun. But when I thought about it, I was like, I can't see me doing this when I'm like, 40 or 50. Like, sticking a microphone under Simon Cowell's nose. I'm not quite sure this is what I want to do with my life. You know, I loved it, and I was hugely grateful to have got where I got to. But I was like, I think there's something out there. It felt like something was missing, and I'd been looking at, like, you know, PR kept popping up. It kept, like, you know, you get signs. They just kept coming along throughout the years, like, maybe you should apply for this, or maybe you should do that. And I was like, well, I've never worked in PR, but I hear that you have to be quite creative to work in PR. So I'll apply for some roles. And if I can make it work with me taking voluntary redundancy for the BBC, all the better. In the end, I left my job at the BBC on the Friday and started as an account manager for a PR entertainment agency on the Monday. I'd never written a press release in my life. I'd never done anything to do with it. But I think because I inherently understand what journalists are looking for, because I was one, and I understand, like, how to put together a story, it didn't matter that I didn't know, like, how to write a press release or things like that, because that all came really, really quickly. And I love writing. So it was very easy for me to go, yeah, that's fine. And then all of a sudden, all of our clients that I was looking after were getting all this incredible coverage. And everyone was like, how are you doing this? How is this possible? And it became a kind of running joke in the agency that myself and the account exec that was working with me, we'd be given the toughest clients in terms of the hardest to place in terms of, like, the news stories that we were given. And we were just smashing it. And everyone was like, what's going on? But it was because I would say to them, no, do it like this, not like that. No, you don't want to do that. And this is how we'll get this charity onto the BBC World. And they were like, what? And I was like, and that's how you'll get them onto the BBC World Service. And then they were, and then they were featured, and everyone just stood there and went, oh, right. Okay. And then subsequently what happened was, my biggest client at the time was UK TV, and they had a job opening. And my interview went along the lines of, oh, you know, I've got a role. What's it like working in-house? Oh my God, it's yours. And that was it. And then I was in, and then I was working. What I originally wanted to do was work in television. And I did. I was working in TV publicity, and I did that for 6 years, and I loved it. But when I had my son, everything changed for me. Although I'd gone from absolutely adoring my job, I had severe separation anxiety after I had him. So the return to work was really hard for me to be able to kind of get back into that kind of, you know, working the long hours, staying there late and everything else. And as it was, I was only getting to see him for half an hour a day. So I knew that something had to change. And so I started looking at roles where I would have, like, it would just be a fixed term contract, like a maternity cover, because then there was an end in sight, and I knew that I'd be a lot better in terms of if I had an end in sight for me at that moment in time. Eventually I ended up working at Thorpe Park. I was the head of PR at Thorpe Park, and that was so much fun. Absolutely loved that job. It was amazing. Early starts, late finishes, you know, used to be at the park sometimes at 4:30 in the morning and things like that. But when my little boy was due to start school, I was like, I can't do this job and be there for him. And actually, it's really important because he was one of the youngest in the year. I just wanted to be the mum on the school gates. So I quit my job. I went freelance, and then I had a little bit of a wobble in between, and then set up my company, and it's gone from strength to strength. And I think, but a lot of it is based around storytelling and helping others find their stories and being able to utilize those to maximize the coverage that they get, and then therefore the impact they can have on other people.
Yeah, and we talked to you a bit about our story, haven't we? You know, be good for you to maybe share what you see as our story and how important, you know, like something like a podcast and releasing that is as part of that story.
What I really love about you guys is the way that you met. And I think that for me, it's everything. Like, I love the fact that you kind of, like, you knew right from the minute that you saw each other, you instinctively knew that there was a connection there. And I think when you get that in life, it is a gift. It is an absolute gift. And I think you guys would both say that as well.
We share that on the podcast. I think it's in the first episode. And Joe always likes to drop in that I arrived late. So literally walk through the door, they're halfway through like the first lesson. I'm like, oh, sorry. And it's always strange to explain it, but it was like a cosmic energy, like just like we'd known each other already for the past 20 years. So we may as well invest the next 20 years as friends and business partners. And it has been a big part of our journey. Just last week, actually, when we were reflecting on the podcast going out, and last week we were frantic doing so many last minute touches to a lot of things. We both just like took a breath on a call. We're like, gosh, this would be really hard to do on your own, wouldn't it? So we never underestimate how lucky we are to have that relationship. And yes, it's luck, but also we work very hard on our relationship. So not all, we know, because we coach a lot of executive leaders and boards and stuff, that relationship at a senior level there's so much pressure. It's quite easy for them to fall off kilter. And so we know that when I'm stressed or when Joe is stressed, we know those behaviors that are going to come out, and we can accommodate it because we know that it's transient. So we have conflict, but a healthy conflict in our relationship. And it just works. But again, not by accident.
And I think the podcast, what it will enable you to do as well is it's going to enable people to see the journey that you guys have been on together, and they will be able to hear because they're hearing directly from you. And when I first started out as a journalist, I started off in radio. And so it's a real passion for me in terms of, because it's so intimate. It's like one-on-one. You're speaking to one person. And I always remember when I used to go on and read news and everything else, right in the early days, someone once said to me, yes, you're going to be reading to 50,000 people. However, just think of it as one person. And you've got to read to that one person. And it's so true. It's such an intimate kind of experience. So people are, yes, they're going about their days. Yes, they might be doing something else at the same time, but you're able to reach them with your story in such an incredible way. I think it's going to be brilliant for you guys to have this podcast, and it clearly is working because you're already at number 6, and hopefully by the time we finish this interview, you'll be at number 5.
Well,
and then creeping up even further.
You just reminded me. I think I did want to be a newsreader at some point, when I was younger. I'd totally forgotten about that. And now you've just sort of kind of positioned the podcast as being something similar to that. I'm like, oh, wow, yes. And that, even when we listened to the podcast, I felt it was really different because we do our weekly videos in the Coaching Crowd group. It's on our YouTube channel. We kind of thought like it was not that different, but that audio, pure audio, it is different. And for me, it's really important that people that listen feel a sense of warmth from us, feel a sense of connection. We are only a few steps ahead of anybody else that's listening to the podcast. So anybody can, if they're interested in coaching, get into coaching. And we feel so lucky that we came across coaching in our HR careers, and we really truly love what we do, and we want more people to have access to high quality coaching from an everyday mental health perspective, from realizing your potential perspective, purpose point of view.
And career transitions. And I'm sure in your own kind of career transition, you had to do a lot of soul searching, a lot of weighing up different pros and cons, deciding what's most important to you. And those decisions aren't easy, are they? It's helpful to have people who are skilled at helping you navigate that journey and make those decisions. So.
And I think from a PR...
definitely. I wish I'd had that. I absolutely wish I had that. I didn't have anyone. So it was very much like I walked into the agency and after the first day, my husband said, right, I'm going to take you out for dinner to celebrate the fact that you've changed careers successfully. Well done, you. And I promptly burst into tears. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is so hard. And he was like, you're right. I was like, I'm not sure I've made the right decision here, because you're so used to doing things in a certain way. And I think a lot of people that have worked definitely at the BBC have all said the same thing. You become institutionalized. You used to doing things in a set way, in a certain way, and everything else. And when you go out into the big wide world, it's like, okay, this is very different. I'd not used computer programs before in the same way, like Word or Excel, or done any kind of like presentations on PowerPoint. I'd done none of that because you didn't need to, because you had set systems that you used, and you were very much looked after because you were at the BBC. So it was very different in terms of that. So yeah, I could have definitely benefited from having some coaching, right?
And I think careers become part of your identity, and I say, as particularly high profile careers like one that you had, it's almost like so who am I beyond that? Like, I'm not there on screen where people can see me. Like, how am I going to know if I'm successful? And I think that's where coaching comes in. It's just to help you recalibrate all of those stories. Ironic, isn't it? You tell stories outside to help build profile, but you tell stories inside your own head that either help or hinder you. And I guess that's what we love about coaching is I think we talk about you are your own, best tool. Probably put it better than that in the podcast.
Well, we're authors, aren't we, of our own stories? And sometimes our role as coaches is to help the coachees remind them of that. You can change your story, and in a coaching sense, stories really are what we refer to as beliefs. So those empowering positive beliefs that we have, but also those limiting or negative beliefs, that self-talk that can really sabotage us. But for us, another lens on the podcast is, all those people that are interested in coaching. For us, our main barrier in business to date has been visibility. Like, the quality of what we do, we know we can 100% stand behind, and we really like to have those personal relationships with people that we coach, but that we train as well. It's just been people not knowing that we exist. So we have created this podcast for our Coaching Crowd community on Facebook. It's free for anybody to join, but also for those in our Coaching Crowd Business Lounge, because coaching is so private. You're coaching one-to-one in a confidential environment. People may know, lots of people don't even know about the work that we do. And then when you have to put yourself and your coaching business out there so that people know you exist, that can be the thing that's really daunting. So we really hope that, doing what we're doing with the podcast will also inspire those people who are already trained as coaches that are wondering, how do I get my message out into the world in a way that's authentic for me? And, with the podcast, from what we've seen of the ratings so far, anyway, the reviews, it's us. People are experiencing us. So wherever you connect with us, whether it's in Croatia on a business mastermind or somewhere else, you're going to have the same experience. We just are how we are, and it's not for everybody, but it's for some people. And so we hope it inspires people.
Yeah. So thank you for coming on.
Oh, that's all right. No worries at all. All I was going to say was, you're really right about the chapters of people's lives and becoming part of that. It's almost like we're telling a life story. This is a chapter of a book. And I think the really important thing, because sometimes people get really worried about sharing their stories because they're not sure how it's going to come across, how it's going to be perceived, and things like that. And the thing to say around that is, it's your story, so you only share the bits that you want to share. And that's really important. It's a safety net. You do not have to tell everything. You absolutely don't. Know what your boundaries are and know what outcome you want right from the very beginning. Like you guys, when you've launched your podcast, you know what you wanted this outcome to be. You wanted to grow your audience. You wanted to enable people to get to know you more and get to know you through stories as well. And that's what's really important.
And this is just the first series, so we're going to go on and have different angles to the podcast. So this is kind of our introduction into it, just answering some of the key questions that people in our audience have shared with us that they had when they were thinking about coaching. So we hope that it covers it from that introductory perspective, and we're actually really excited to do more. So thanks, Nicola. We really appreciate your support. Thank you so much for joining us.
It's an absolute pleasure, guys, and congratulations again.
Thank you.
Bye. Bye.